Hey guys, this is Table for Four. This is your boy Stefan, and welcome back to another episode on the podcast. And today we're going to be talking about religion. And Adrian, can you tell us more about this episode?
Of course I can. What's going on, listeners? It's me, Adrian. On today's episode, we'll be talking about religion. We will be talking about learning about the different aspects and opinions in general, and how they can affect the family dynamics, as well about talking about faith. Are you guys ready?
Yes!
Cue the music!
Hey guys, this is Stephanie.
This is Andre.
This is Adrian.
And this is your boy Stefan.
And this is Table for Four, a family conversation podcast.
Today on the show, we have a special guest. I got my cousin Che and his wife Maribel. What's going on, guys?
Hi there.
How you doing?
So Che and I, we grew up together pretty much a good portion of our lives in New York. And then, growing up, he's seen some tough times, and then we've seen him struggle and stuff like that. And then one day he just picked up and left and moved to Virginia. And then the rest is history. Now he's a reborn Christian. He found the path to the Lord, and here we are now.
And he goes to church?
Yeah, he has a church. He has a little missionary going on. He's been going on missionary retreats in Africa, Brazil, and other parts of the world to help spread the gospels. And his wife is joining him in that process too. So what's going on, guys?
Hi there, you guys. It's a blessing to be here with you guys today doing this. This is something new, at least for me. I usually don't do this. But we are very, very happy to be here with you guys and to be able to talk. And
we're happy. We're honored to be on the show with you guys. Thank you for having us in your show, and to share
your story
about our lives, our beliefs, our faiths, our struggles as well, and also our victories. I can say,
Absolutely.
We can all have struggles, but we all also can all have victories.
Yep. And just a little backstory. Che and I, we didn't grow up different. We grew up pretty much in the same households. Going to church every morning, every Sunday, every Tuesday when our grandma was here. And then growing up, we got into our share of trouble. We got into the graffiti thing, vandalizing, pretty much rebelling. And Chad took it a little further, and, he was going through a lot. And he was also, doing stuff in the streets in New York.
Okay, so
so then he turned to the Lord, and now here we are.
So if you guys want to tell us a little bit about your spiritual journey and how it's being presented to the world, and just telling us in general growing up, and walking through us to that, if you guys can share your story with us.
Sure, absolutely. I think I will start, but I'm gonna leave my husband. I'm going to leave my husband do most of the talking, obviously, for obvious reason, because I do get very nervous. But anyways, we actually come from two different religious backgrounds. If he grew up as a Christian, as Andre said, and I grew up as a Catholic. In a sense, is two very similar religions, because we both believe in the same God, kind of like it's one God, but he's divided in three. So it's what we call the Holy Trinity: God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit, or Holy Ghost, some might say. We once I moved to New York, I was already, as you can hear, the accent. Yeah. I was already 15 years old. And so at that point, I stopped pretty much just going to church. I started reading my Bible, and kind of felt like a little disappointed when I started reading it for myself. Disappointed in the sense that I was like, there's certain things here that don't agree with what I was taught, like at mass on Sundays. And so I started kind of going to other places or other religions. I visit a Buddhist temple. I go to mosque. I used to go. I was jumping. I was looking for something. Like I said, I was looking for something, and I was very disappointed about the way I grew up, and like I said, the Catholic religion, and so that was there.
You didn't know what it was until you found it.
Exactly.
Are you still looking for it?
Like my cousin Dre was saying, like for me, it was kind of the similar because we were raised in church, young. Like he said, we used to go to church Tuesdays, Sundays.
Wow.
But we were young and I don't know.
Uneducated. I would say uneducated and not into it. You know, we're kids.
And I think we learned some values that helped us out throughout our life.
Oh, yeah.
But it was kind of more religious.
Yeah.
If it were to be more emphasized on the relationship, maybe half of the struggles throughout my youth, maybe they would have not happened. But it was more focused towards a religious point of view of just going to church, being there. You're not staying like more of a forced, to go to church in a sense. And it wasn't really the relationship aspect. And I think, like my wife said, she was looking for something. In my sense, I stumbled into God in a sense.
Yeah.
Because I was out there just living a crazy life and really didn't have a direction. Didn't have, I think we all have a purpose, but I didn't know what was my purpose. I didn't know where my life was drifting to. I thought that just going to work, making a good salary, having a good job, having a nice car, I thought that was success for me. And that was all that I needed until I got myself in so many problems and situations that my money couldn't help me.
A lawyer couldn't help.
Yeah. I just needed some direction and some guidance. And that's how I came to know God, through my problems. You could either get to know God the easy way or you can stumble into him the hard way. But one thing I know that he's always available,
When walking us through your story and finding something, what was it that you thought that you were missing? Because you mentioned that, money doesn't help you, having a lawyer doesn't help you. Like, what exactly was it that you were looking for that you found in a faith or you found in religion in that sense? Like, what did you find in that?
Like, I would say in my case, I was, like I say, I felt a sense of like disappointment, having left out in a way. And I was like, okay, I know there's a God. Like I say, I used to go to mass every Sunday. And besides that, I went to a private Catholic school. I was, taught by nuns. And so I was, but I know there was an emptiness and a loneliness inside of me. I had a great job. That was before I met my husband. I had a great job. I was, by the time I was 19 years old, I was a supervisor supervising like 25 people. Like
you had success in that. Yeah, you had success in that.
Yes.
At such a young age.
Yes, I felt like that, but there was still something missing and I didn't know what it was. I used to feel like depressed. Mental health is I'm very passionate about that because my mother dealt with it. I also did. and that was something, like I say, it was an emptiness that a bag, like expensive bag or expensive shoes or, clothing, having this or having that couldn't fill. And
it couldn't fill the void. It just couldn't fill the void.
It was an emptiness, loneliness. Like, I know some people, you can be in a room full of people and you can feel like sometimes,
the loneliness
you still feel the outsider.
You feel like an outsider. You feel that loneliness, that sadness, that emptiness inside of you. And you're like, why is this happening? So that kind of, like I say, I was jumping from religion to religion. I was searching and almost became a Muslim. Wow. I was really attended one of their how does it go? I did it for like 6 months. I really thought about it a lot, and it was kind of like a fight in between inside of me. Because what they taught me, though, even though I was disappointed about the Catholic religion, but what they taught me and the principles and the fundamentals were there. And one thing I knew, Jesus had to be the center. Jesus had to be the center. And that's why I kept jumping from place to place, because it was like, okay, so he's not here. Okay, so like with the Buddhists, they have so many ways of how would you say that, to like philosophy. A lot of that. And then I found the Jews, they have so many commandments. I was like, I don't think I can do all this. The Hindus, they have way too many gods.
Too many rules.
So it's like, no, I can do one. One is doable for me. And so the Muslims, they were like, okay, there's one God. Okay, so I identify with that. And they actually believe that Jesus was a prophet, but I knew Jesus as the Son of God. So, that was the thing that kind of made me back out of becoming a Muslim.
Like for me, I think it was identity. Like I think God, when he creates all of us with a purpose, he sets us apart. And I guess at my young age, I was always trying to fit in because I didn't have a group of friends or people surrounding me. And I was looking for identity somewhere else besides in God himself, And then when I started serving him and knowing him, he started revealing to me what my purpose was.
Oh, when you started, I wouldn't say serve. I'll say once you started to have a relationship, because that's the key word there, I believe.
Yeah, relationship.
A relationship.
Because I remember when I was 18, this was an actual prayer that I did. And when I was 18, I thought that life was having a lot of girlfriends or working and having money. And I said, God, let me enjoy my life. And later on, I'll serve you again, And
put a rain check on it.
From that time I said that, it was like 10, 12 years later, I went through so much stuff. And when I actually, like I said, I had problems. I didn't know what to do. I made a similar prayer, but this time when I made this prayer, I said, God, if you're real, manifest yourself to me. If you can help me, help me. If you can answer prayer, answer my prayer. And I told him, I'm like, I don't want to go to church to be religious. I don't want to go to church just to be a regular churchgoer like other people that you can see they have an appearance of being a Christian and they don't They don't act like it. They don't help no one.
No love.
There's no love. And I'm like, I don't want to be like that.
Like little soldiers.
Change my mind, change my heart, my life, every part of me. And
when we think about your identity, right? When as parents, right, we always try to encourage our kids to find their own identity, right? Whether if it's through their friends, through their family, or through spirituality or through faith. But for me personally, I don't know how religion plays a role in that when we're so young ourselves that we really can't make those decisions, right? So when you are asked what is religion to you, how would you respond? Like if I'm a parent, right, trying to explain that to my children, and they were to ask me, well, mommy, dad, what is religion? How would you define that to your kids?
To me,
Andres, you go first.
To me, it's a relationship with a higher being, with something that's something higher than us. You know, and not necessarily that, you know, like Ches said, you know, like we used to go to a building, you know, and everyone, for us, it wasn't it. You know, it was just at a young age, you know, we were taught you have to dress a certain way to do the same look that all the Pentecostal church does, and to have this certain look and ideals. And to me, when I was 16, we all did. My brother, Che, and him, and me, we all steered away from the church.
Because you didn't identify with it, or is it because you guys were young and still trying to
we were young and we were still trying to figure it out? You know, it's I don't like I said, I don't know how kids do it at such an early age. You know, like they get into it. Like we couldn't get into it. You know, like for Che to get into it, something had to happen in his life to have that relationship. You know, and me, I feel like my mom is the same way. Like I don't have to go to a building to have faith and to worship.
Che,
you know?
Same question to you.
I will explain it to them like a relationship of true love, because you can have a relationship with anyone based on love, but you don't know what true love is until you have a relationship with God. You know, I had sometimes I will watch like a Daystar or TBN, any show on TV. And I would say, you know, you'll hear pastors say, God loves you, God loves you, God loves you. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You know, I don't know what kind of love you're talking about until I had an encounter with that love, you know. And I think as for children, it's the same way. It's a relationship. You know, when I see my son, he may do something that is not, you know, he may disobey, or my daughter do something that she's not supposed to do. And yet I still love them. You know, every day I still feed them. I still supply everything that they need.
I don't know if Andres would still feed them. I don't know if he'll still feed them.
So as parents, we have this like grace for our children. Sometimes even though they disobey or they don't listen, you know. So that's how God is with us as well. You know, he has this grace. He understands us because he created us. You know, he didn't create us. He's not in heaven with a bat trying to whack us in the head. You know, he just has that patience that we as parents have with our children,
or should have,
or should have. You know,
I know for me,
but it's not forced. It's something that is expressed through a relationship.
I think when it comes to having an understanding and relationship, for me, true love, it transcends beyond that, because I know for like myself, giving birth, having my children, that was a sign, or that was one of the significant roles of true love for me. That's how I interpreted true love, because I carried a being inside me for 9 months. I've had that connection with that person and with my children. That's how I define true love. And in things like that, I see that people use that relationship as well into faith and to spirituality. So I can totally understand how people can find themselves in that type of true love relationship, because I understand it. I don't know if it's the same for dads. I don't know. But Maribel, do you understand what I mean? Like coming from, you know, from a mother's perspective?
You know, it's like you said at the beginning, there is a human being being formed inside your womb. They can, it's like they can feel your heartbeat. And, you feel them kick and grow and develop inside of you. And that is like
a miracle in itself.
To me, it was like a miracle.
Absolutely.
And it was my first encounter with that, what I will say, selfish and true love. And this was even before I became a Christian. This was all I knew before that. Because like Andres said, for some of us at the beginning, we just go to church because
our parents,
this is what we are taught to do. This is, I emphasize that a lot with my children. It's like, I don't want them to feel like, oh, you doing this just because mommy is telling you to do it. Right. Is something that I want them to find the same God I found and to have the same relationship I found and I have, because once you have that, you can't get away from it.
They can't take it away from you. Absolutely.
It becomes embedded in you.
Absolutely.
Just like when a child is growing as a woman inside your womb, it's like that love is embedded in
the
you.
connection. Absolutely. Yep. And when thinking about how the relationship children develop on their own, like, what do you think are some of the misconceptions with religion? Because I feel like when you guys were growing up, you guys felt like, we have to go to a building, it's forced upon you. But those are just some of the misconceptions. What are other misconceptions that are surrounded with religion and spirituality and faith in general?
For me, it's very almost growing up, it was almost like a cult. Because everyone had to dress a certain way, like all the women.
So like
no earrings, nothing. They had to follow. You have to wear like on your head and wear skirts. Like it was just too much. And
no, your dad's saying it's a cult, but you wanted to.
Yeah, so we're not like really connected anymore. Like people like don't eat certain foods or celebrate certain.
Okay.
It's true. Yeah, they don't celebrate certain days. Like
they don't eat certain foods
and stuff like that. But it's
they don't wear certain clothes.
They don't wear certain clothes,
like
right?
Said, everybody wears a certain style.
They don't have a similar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But is that something that's wrong? Is that something that would be one of the misconceptions of like everything has to be the same and you can't do something or stray away from that?
I don't think it has to be the same at all. It's because everyone can have their own beliefs. Like, for example, just people in general. Because
like cultural diffusion.
Why are you throwing the big words at me?
What?
No, okay, but I think what your brother is trying to say
is that like there could be different religions. For example, Catholic and Christian, and yeah, that's basically what I'm trying to say is you can have different religions, but you can have whatever type of religion you would like.
Oh, like Judaism,
right? But what we're trying to figure out is what are some of the misconceptions about those religions in general?
Well, I think the misconceptions about them is that like I feel like people are getting a lot of pressure because of it, and I don't think people should get a lot of pressure because
then that would lead to war.
It would lead to war in the house, right? Okay.
See, and that's the thing. Growing up as a kid, you feel that pressure.
Because
I didn't want any part of it.
Like people are gonna get mad at you because they don't, or they don't have a similar culture with you,
right? And they might disagree with you,
and then they might start war. Fight.
No.
Things that everyone.
Oh, you're talking about like fighting? Well, remember. History has dictated that there have been religious wars.
Yeah.
There's
like a food fight.
Not food fight.
Well, no, just like something.
No. There was fights.
Yeah.
There were wars. Like people were killing each other. Yeah. But
I think I have another thing about Jews, the Jewish people. There's a thing called the Holocaust.
What's that?
The Holocaust.
Let him explain. Yeah.
The Holocaust was like I think in the 1900s. I think It was like people were using concentration camps to like stop Jews from like physically existing, because I don't think people didn't like Jews in general, so that's why like in the Holocaust they like starved the Jews, or not starved them, but they were
not treated very well.
They were not treated equally.
So what was the misconception about that? That all Jewish people are these type of people, and that somebody thought that they were
Enemies?
Beneath them.
Like enemies?
Like, right?
Because the thing is, with like during the Holocaust, they thought of them as a threat. Because the thing is, they blamed like wars on Jews, and that's why they wanted to eliminate the Jews.
Well, they eliminated the Jews only because the Germans felt like the blonde hair, blue eyes were the superior being.
Yeah, and then they would always have to wear certain clothing. So then,
would this be like related to Rome?
No.
Rome is before that.
Yeah, but Rome had really strict rules. Like the 12
But
tables.
then there was there was also a war in Rome too, a religious war. We're not gonna get into all this.
Yeah, but they had postal offices so they can communicate from a long place, like from far away.
True.
And the 12 tables was the first law code.
Okay. You ready to school us? Yes.
Yeah, I am ready to school you.
Okay. But getting back to trying to figure out how can, as adults, as children, what can we do to get past those misconceptions?
Is acceptance, because when you're a hardcore religious fan, like you're like, oh, this is the right way. This is what you should be preaching.
The right way and the only way.
And the only way. And then the next religion is going to say the same thing, and the next religion is going to say the same thing. So there's always a conflict of interest.
No, but I'm going to disagree with you. Maribel said that she's had the opportunity to experience different religions.
Right.
Were they welcoming to her?
Yes, they were very welcoming. She realized that in her own way. She did the Muslim, Buddhism, and then Christianity. And then I'm pretty sure each one was welcoming in its own way. But she never had that connection until she found Christianity, right?
Yes, that's right. That was I'm gonna just put it in simple terms. It's like it shouldn't be something that's forced against you. Like, I don't think my children feel like they're forced, because we go there and they actually look forward to go there, because it's like we're meeting. It's a community, it's a community of people. You make friends. They believe in the same things you believe in, and there's like you guys says, there's different religions, and there is different. Some places they have more harsh rules than others, just to put it in simple terms. But look at me, like you guys can see me. I'm look at my hair, look at the color.
Yeah.
I got makeup on. I
no restrictions.
I love movies. All kinds of them, all kinds of movies. We go to the movies as a family. Yeah. We love, we read books. We, to me, we are a normal family. Look at, we wear,
you wear what you want. Yeah, you wear what you want.
We like the brands and the Nikes and the Adidas. Everybody has their own preference. So it's like there's like we look just like you guys look.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I cannot wear pants. I love my jeans, and the tighter they are,
the better.
That's a part of culture.
And it's like, maybe it's because part of my culture, but it's we're not different from anyone.
Right.
The only thing I to me personally, it made me a better individual.
I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that people sometimes sometimes I go to pray for people, and I ask them if they would like to accept the Lord, and they tell me they're not ready. So that's one misconception right there, because they think they have to prepare themselves to have a relationship, and you really don't. All you have to be is willing, like Andres said, is just accept it in your heart, and you can build on that relationship. And that relationship is what gets you prepare or get you ready. You know, I had an instance where I was going to pray for a person and he said no, right? And that's fine, but we always go there. We always pray for them. Then I saw him 3 months later, and I saw him in a wheelchair. He was working. He fell off the wheelchair, and he can't walk anymore. And I prayed for him. He did accept, you know, and he asked for prayer. But it's like, you know, imagine 3 months before, you know, who knows if that could have been prevented, that he could still be walking right now. You know, so to me, it's like deeper because I'm able to see a problem and be used by God to help that person.
Yes.
Have a solution
for that person to get healed. I have numerous people during this COVID that they gotten healed through prayers. You know, there's a lot of people that have died, but I know a lot of people that have got healed. You know, that got out of hospitals, you know, that will send me a message. Can you please pray for me? And I'll stay up all night praying. And the next week I see them in person. Can I have a Bible? You know, so it's like if those testimonies or those results wouldn't happen, maybe I wouldn't believe God as much as I believe him now.
Right.
But I've seen the change. There's a friend of mine that his daughter and his mom were coming from El Salvador to the United States. They were they got stopped in Mexico, close to the border. And right there where all the cartels were, they were right there with no food. The girl's like 7 years old. Yeah. He wasn't sleeping. He wasn't eating food. And he was telling me, look, my daughter's here. The cartels are there.
But pretty much she was like kind of like on the streets.
Isolated in the middle of danger, you know? And I'm like,
child.
I was like, you know what? I'm going to pray for you and your daughter that she comes to the United States and that somebody helps her. We prayed for 2 weeks. Yeah. They found a shelter. She's here in the United States. She's learning English now.
She's in school.
We gave her Christmas gifts. We helped her. She sends us a video smiling and her teacher sending her letters that she's learning English. And my friend is like so grateful. Like when he sees me, I asked him he has a taxi business. I said, I need a ride. Take me somewhere. I'm like, how much? He doesn't even charge me anything. Yeah. You know, because it's like his whole life was his daughter. You know, so maybe his daughter is the reason that he got to know God through what God did for him.
Yeah. I want to go back when hearing these testimonies. Like, I find myself as a practical person, like I like to see things in a practical view. So when I hear somebody tell me that if somebody fell down the stairs, right? Going back to the story about the gentleman in the wheelchair, right? That if 3 months prior, if you would have prayed for him, could have prevented his accident. In my head, I don't see that being related. And I'm just saying that in a practical sense.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But from a spiritual sense,
it might be different.
Right.
So what happens when you are surrounded by non-believers? Now, I don't carry myself as a non-believer, but I find myself as very, very practical, very tactical in the way I look at things. And, you know, everything is not black and white with me. I'm always living in the gray area. But how do you explain that testimony? Like because I don't see how they're related. Me personally, I don't see how that's related. But then how would you explain that to somebody that might be a non-believer?
Okay.
Take a stab at that. What
it is, like I said, when we speak about a relationship, it's like a husband, wife, and a family. You have this interaction every day. You guys as a family unit, you have this interaction. You talk about, your life things. And so it's like the same thing we do with God. We have this relationship, this connection, this communication. And it has happened for me many, many times where he has told me.
It's a spiritual perception that you receive when.
And sometimes it's audible for me. It's audible.
It's visual. So, because the same way you have natural eyes, God opens your spiritual
eyes and your spiritual
and you
ears.
have ears as well.
So going back to what Steph said, how is that like could have been prevented?
Okay, let me give this testimony because I don't want to share, but like when my wife, maybe it was like 5 years ago, she went to buy dinner with my son, and she perceived in her heart that she should not drive or go to buy the dinner.
Yeah.
Now, what happened? She perceived, and God told her to not go, and she still went. So when she went and came back, guess what happened? A car hit her 60 miles an hour and flipped the truck over.
Wow.
I remember that accident.
And I had my son sitting in the front, in the passenger seat. And even the firefighters, when they came, they said, because at the tank, the guy hit me
right where the gas tank
was, and he's like, I don't know how this didn't explode. I don't know how you're alive. I don't know how your son is okay. Because the car, it was a SUV, and we all know they tend to flip. And so the tires were like up. And so it was like, they told me, I don't know how nothing happened to you. We can't explain that. We can't explain it. They were like, I'm like, well, I'm fine. My son is fine. And sometimes the thing is, we don't have to make it like so complicated, because like I said, once you start having this relationship, it will like, it's like Steph. She's in medical school to become a nurse. And there were so many things I'm pretty sure you didn't know before. And now as you get into and you're reading your books and you're learning and you're understanding, now there's so many things that you were like, oh my goodness.
A lot of things are connecting. A lot of things are making sense. I see.
Yes, I didn't. You will be like, oh my God, I didn't know about this before.
I didn't see that before. I didn't realize that before. I didn't see the relationship before. Right.
Yes. So for me, I was a very, like I said, negative person. Faith, I still struggle with it sometimes, because I'm like, let's say when we purchased our third house, it was like...
God is like Andres said, it's a higher being. So it's like the things that he can do with anyone and anyone who believes him, it's going to be greater than what we actually think logically or reason.
Yes.
You know, because faith is higher than logic and reason. You know, and
why is that though?
You tap into that higher dimension of faith. Anything can happen, you know, because it's like we're sitting down in chairs having faith that the chair won't break, you know, but we're sitting down, you know, we drive our car knowing that the car is going to start by faith, you know, so I guess we all have faith, but it's just diverted in different areas of life. I was in the auction and I have a Muslim friend of mine. And he's seen me praying for people, and he asked me to pray for him. I said, we can pray right now. And he's like, the first thing that my Muslim friend said, he's like, tell me what you hear and tell me what you see. So I was like, the question really amazed me, because, you know, sometimes as Christians, we go to church not expecting to hear anything from God or to see anything. You know, but he wants to hear and see what God shows him. And I think it's an expectation that we must have to see greater, to keep dreaming, to keep soaring, to keep changing. And I think in Romans 12:2, it says that we can be transformed by the renewing of our mind. So when we read the Word of God, we can read any book.
Yeah.
But the only book that can rewire and change your mindset is the Bible.
I always have a gut feeling. My gut feeling runs my life. And I say that in the most simplest way. There have things that have happened that I didn't necessarily know, but my gut. So I don't know if that, I'll share a quick story. There was a bad storm. We had Hurricane Sandy, right? We were in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Tree was loose in front of our house. I told Andres,
Oh yeah, we heard this.
No, but I went outside.
You went
I went outside first, and I saw the tree.
You saw it swaying, right?
And then something told me to go move the car.
Something told you
So I had a
to
feeling
move the car,
to
right?
go move the car.
And what did I tell you? If your gut tells you to move the car,
Go do it.
Go do it.
So it's funny because I was taking a photograph of the storm, and I think it was Hurricane Irene.
Was it Irene or was it
outside
Sandy?
in front of the door.
Oh,
it was raining. It was pouring.
It was
I had
terrible.
my camera.
It was
and I
terrible
doing,
outside.
Yeah, I was doing like a long exposure shot, and then I see this big tree that's been there forever. This huge, big trunk, tall tree, and I see it moving in the wind. And my truck was there. I was like, you know what? I went back upstairs. I let me go get my keys, and I told Steph about this tree. Something's with this tree that I have to move the car. Not even after I moved the car. 5 minutes later, the tree fell.
We were getting stuff ready, and the kids. I was getting dinner ready, and it was still light outside.
No, it was night. It was nighttime.
It was nighttime, right? And we were getting dinner ready, and all of a sudden we hear the big crash, and it crashed on top of another car in the same place where Andres' car was.
The truck was there.
The truck was. So when you explain that to me, I see it in a sense like I get what that does to you. That gut feeling is something that I've always followed, and I trusted that in like going out in the field and listening to other people, listening to stories, working with people out in the community. My gut always leads me. So is that the sense that you're saying that relationship that I have in my faith and spirituality, that gut feeling is what leads me to make these decisions?
But let me tell you something. You know why? I know everybody says you have a conscience, and what you described, that a gut feeling, right? Like something that tells you. But in both of your cases, you both went to church. You both had like at some point in your life, you made a prayer and you accepted Jesus in your heart, and consciously or unconsciously,
we're still abiding by the rules.
The Bible says that once you accept Him and once you do that, He gives you what we call the Holy Spirit, and that will speak to you. It will never leave you. It will never forsake you, even if you know it or not. It's like gravity. Gravity, it is what it is. If you believe it or if you don't believe it, it is what it is. Jump from, a fifth floor and let's see what's going to happen to you.
Not much. So not nothing good.
It's like, believe it or not, I mean, it's up to you, but the result will be the same. So it's like, that's already inside of you.
The Holy Spirit.
Yes, the Holy Spirit is inside of you.
So in other sense, the gut feeling is the perception of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
So every time we sense danger, we sense like some sort of like
something positive.
That
it doesn't necessarily have to be negative, right? I know Ches said that when it doesn't necessarily have to be negative.
In the Bible, it says that His word is a light unto our feet and a lamp unto our path. So in order for you to go somewhere, He guides you. He leads you. That's what God does. In the Bible, He says, follow me. How are you going to follow someone if you don't know where He tells you to go? But He leads you through His Spirit, know. And I remember one time I had a dream, and I saw something. I saw a house. I saw the house where you guys are living with. And I called my aunt Consuelo, and I told her, look, I had a dream that this was going to happen. I didn't know nothing. I didn't know why I had the dream. And I told her, and a week later, she told me, you know what? Thank you for telling me, because there was a gas line or something in the house, and it was leaking gas, and we found it. And I think she was able to fix it. But had she not known about that gas leak, the house could have probably exploded. Yeah. But that's the dream I had. And I called her and I told her. And, at first I didn't know what to say, but it was so vivid in my dream that I needed to call her and tell her, and I don't know. That's another, you could have perception through when you're awake or when you're dreaming, when you're sleeping, through your kid. Sometimes your kid will tell you something. You're like, how did he say, what is it? I don't know why he said that, But my son, sometimes I'm stressed. He hugs me and it's just I just feel peace. And he just hugged me,
But he knew. It's like if he knew that you needed
That he
that.
needed that at that point.
Like, it's funny because like when I always felt like growing up, I always get all these like deja vu moments. Like I've kind of like envisioned it somewhere, somehow, sleeping or just thinking about something. And I've seen it later on that has happened. I'm like, oh, I dreamt about this, that's happening. And I remember one time, I think Rolando gets the same thing because we went out to eat.
Yeah, but you and your brother, you guys are like highly perceptive. Bro.
Yeah, we have like these intuitions and stuff.
Yeah, like you and him.
It is because it is a gift.
Yeah. You and your brother have it. It's weird. Like it's spooky sometimes.
We went out to eat one time. And then we were all having this conversation and everything. And all of a sudden I hear Rolando tell Jen, this is deja vu. And she's like, what do you mean? I felt like I had this vision of us being here at this moment. And I heard him say it. I literally heard him say it. So I heard him say it from the corner of the room. I heard him say deja vu. And he literally told Jen, like, I had a vision that we were here together at this very moment. Mm-hmm. And I get those visions also. Like later on, I'm like, wait, I dreamt about this. Mm-hmm. This feels like I've already been here before.
It feels similar.
And then talking about dreams, I had a dream and it just felt so real. I felt like somebody, like I was in a room and then I was talking to a bunch of friends and then all of a sudden this being just picks me up telling me it's my time. He picks me up and just whisks me somewhere. And I remember seeing all these hallways and takes me to this gold area, this gold room. And then I see like a gold rotunda and I see space. And then I see like a whole bunch of like jewels around the crown of the rotunda. And I'm taking to myself, I see it vividly. I'm looking up and looking around and I see like the universe. It was just one of those weird dreams of like, what does this mean? And ever since then, is this happened a couple months ago?
Yeah.
And every day I kind of think about that dream. Like, what does this mean? What does this dream mean?
What it is like he's in you. So what he's showing you is where you came from. That's why he's
crazy, right?
See, simple. Maribel breaks it down.
I'm part of the universe.
That's it.
That's what he's doing. That's and because like I said, even if you pursue it, if you don't like saying God, even like for you, like I say, you guys went up in there, grew up in there, and maybe you might have thought, okay, this is something I do because they forced me to do it. And but like I say, the Holy Spirit is in you, and that comes from that. It comes from Him. It comes from God. Like those visions. Ask people. You can ask your friends or whatever, and you tell them something like that, and they might be like, do you have anything to drink? Or do you, like, at what time you had dinner? Or like, what are you talking about? It's like you said, it's almost spooky, but it's not that. It's the God in you. It's already there. Even if you want it or not, the Bible said that He chose us. We didn't choose Him. Like, we didn't go after Him. He said, I chose you. Even before the beginning of times, even before this planet was formed. He chooses.
We're predestined.
And He, it's like sooner or later, I don't want to say it this way, like it's gonna get you. But sooner or later, it's gonna happen because it's in there. Is already
because
in there.
Whatever is in you, like he said, he recalls it, I give you an example. When I was in New York, I guess Andres knows my when I used to work, all the bad things I used to do as a youth, and I came to the point that I was doing things that I wasn't supposed to do, and I was in a bus stop. I had stopped going to high school. And I was in a bus stop and I heard a voice tell me, you said you wanted to be a better example for your brother. And one, you're not being a better example for your brother. Two, you could end up in jail. Or three, you could end up killed. But at the end, you were never a better example for your brother. So it's like, I didn't know what that voice was until I was like 10, 15 years later. I'm like, you know what?
Now
God
it
was
makes
talking
sense.
to
Yeah,
me.
now it makes sense.
And I didn't even know it. But it was so surreal that it made me stop what I was doing. And I went back to high school and I finished high school and I kept working and I stopped doing what I was doing that I knew what was wrong, you know. But
that maybe if you were to continue in that path, you maybe wouldn't even be here today. Those are the things.
Yeah.
Those are the things that sometimes wouldn't make sense to people, or that people be like, that's just baloney, that's just craziness, but it's something that you have to experience to be able to understand.
Yeah.
So it's like we're not sometimes people just have this like this misconception, I will call it. Oh, it's too much for me. I don't think the religion. I don't really like to call it that. Like, I don't really like, but at the same time, I understand as humans, we have to put things in a box. We like to know what this is, and we call things. We
try to label everything.
Okay, so this is red and this is green,
right,
and this is that. But like I said, to me, it's like we do the same thing other people do. We eat the same things. We love the same things. But it's just like I said. I know, which I didn't know before. I always felt alone. I thought I was by myself. And even after I got married, I have always think that I have to, he got my back, but I also have to, I always felt like I had to have my own back as well. I always kind of, I was like that. But then once I knew this God and he became real to me, it's like, I know I will never be alone. That feeling went away. I will never be alone. He will always be with me. And I'm telling you, is the greatest feeling to know that you have a superior being, somebody that's bigger than you, that can do so much looking after you, that he is for you. He's not against you. And that's the same thing I try to impart in my children, and let them go through their own path too, and have trials. Their own experiences as well.
And then that's what I told Steph the last time, because we had this whole big thing.
No, that's not what you said.
No, we have this whole thing about because she grew up Catholic and Lutheran.
Yeah.
Just pretty much her mom and her family going to different churches all the time. So we grew up a certain way. Pentecostal. So she wanted to do a baptism, and I didn't agree with it, because I'm like, you know what? I didn't grow up that way. So it's two totally different religions. I don't want to baptize them. So then finally, like a few years later, I gave her the okay, and then she gave me a fight about it just for giving her the okay. And I
let me explain something. You don't give me the okay. Let's just straighten that out.
No.
There's no misconception.
It's a 50-50 down the middle, right, guys?
No, 50-50.
60-40? Me?
No, no. The thing is that as the mom, I always thought that I would be
the one to make the decision.
Make the decision.
You're not a single parent.
Well, I realize that now, but that was really the struggle between him and I. Let me ask you guys, how did you find the common ground between having the different religious backgrounds, being Pentecostal, being Christian, and being, Catholic? How did you guys find that common ground? Because we still disagree, and it's broken out in fights, at that point. And I don't want to fight about something that's important to me, but I kind of left it alone. To totally avoid the problem, I don't even talk about it anymore. And now my children are old enough; they haven't been baptized. There's no communion. There's no confirmation. So that is all out the window. And I feel like I failed as a Catholic.
No, you didn't
for
fail.
not trying to. See,
you tried. You tried. You made the attempt. That's all that matters.
I made the attempt. That's what matters.
That's all that matters. You made the attempt. But my thing was, since I kind of like stopped going to church for so long, I felt like if they want to get involved, and then when they meet the right person, and then they have to go to confession and all this stuff, let them make their own decision on what they want to follow.
Okay, but you didn't make your own decision when you were young. No.
I didn't make my decision.
No, so how come we couldn't do that?
Because I'm letting them have the choice.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
No, you're not. You didn't give me the opportunity to make that choice for them. Because you put your foot down, you're like, no, it's not happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, what?
Because we have two different religious backgrounds. Let them choose and what they want to follow.
Right, but you took the opportunity away from me. That's what you did. You didn't even give me the chance to say, this is what I want to do for them, and you shut it down. Like, you didn't even give me the opportunity to do that. So that's what angers me. That's what frustrates me. You know what I mean?
I will say, you guys, okay, so me and Jose, we have been, this is so crazy. We have been married for 18 years. We met in April 2003. Bang, married by December to same year. So 6 months or 7, give or take. Or, whatever it is. But we met in April. We got married in December. Same year. Now, this is something that, going back to the logical part, is not supposed to work. 18 years later, here we are. But the key to it, just like any marriage, any relationship, you have to find a compromising point. That's what a relationship is. It's like going back to Steph's point. How do we find that ground? It's like, because if he's set on his way and I'm set on my way, then it's like, nobody's going to be happy here, because it's like, it can't be like that. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Once you decide to become married and have a family. Now, what I can sense for Andres was not such a great experience. He felt like religion was something that it was imposed on him, and he doesn't want that for his children.
But that wasn't the experience that I had. And it's unfair for him.
Steph, it was different.
It was different for me.
Yeah, it was something that you felt it was good for you. And maybe it might have been one of your most fun or loving memories from your childhood.
Absolutely. I've had fun memories going to church with my grandfather, going with my family, going to after school program. My mother and I, we used to go to church on Saturday, and then the rest of the family went on Sunday. It was always a positive thing. It was always a sense of community. And I wanted to have that same thing for them. It was always positive for me. I never felt forced. There was one thing my mother said to me: you don't have to go to church in order to believe in God. And she always said that to me. Right. Till this day. This day.
And the problem I had with mine is, like, we grew up a certain way. We grew up, with all these beliefs, but at the same time, a lot of the members of the church were hypocrites. They never really, like, preach what they say. It was always they turn around or something else.
But I think that's the reason, and Maribel is making a great point, because we've had two different experiences with church that we can't see past it.
Like Steph said, since for me it was a positive thing to have God in my life, I wanted my children to experience that. So I went back. I remember I went back to Mass. I went back to the Catholic Church, went back to Mass. And I said, well, God, I have always been searching for you. It's been in me. It's part of who I am. It cannot be me without, it's without my God. It was part of what, the way I grew up. Right. And so I was like, I went to Mass. I didn't really feel anything. It was like the same old thing, like Andres said. And then I went to this Christian church, and I felt something. I went in there, And I felt, I was like, okay, I think this is it. I think this is it. And I talked to my husband, which was not interested in none of that, but at least he was open and able to be like, okay, Maribel.
You see the word she used?
I want my kids.
She said open.
Well, and when the time I was open to it, you said, no, I don't want to do it no more.
But like I said, I want my kids to have God in their life, or at least to have that opportunity to experience it for themselves. And then later on, that's not the thing. Then, but I was like, but he did. I know I kind of had to switch over, so to speak, because I was a Catholic and he's a Christian. So, I kind of had to kind of bend or compromise a little, like I said.
So yes, Steph, you got to bend.
I don't have to bend. All my life, I compromise.
See, she said she bent.
No.
That's what she said.
No. I am a mother. All I do is compromise.
Yeah, exactly.
All I do.
And like I said, I went from being like I didn't say, okay, we kind of agree. We came together and we had the conversation. And he was like, okay, if you want them. And he had the same experience as Andres did. Hypocrites, people who tell you one thing, do another, this and that. But he understood that was important for me. He understood that was like one of the constants in my life.
Keyword open.
It was God. It was for me. That's what it was. It might not be for him, but for me, that's, So he said, okay, then if you want to take them and you want to go, you go. I went for a whole year. I never nagged him. He knew I was going to go. He gave me that, freedom, so to speak. And he said, yeah,
get
go.
freedom.
I'm not going to go, but you can go and take them, So, and then a year later, the man came and it's like, I don't know what happened. I know I pray about it. But then I was like, God, I think you kind of went a little overboard with this, because this man is really on fire. I was kind of feeling like I was the one that was being left out, or, but yeah, I like I said, is a marriage, is outside religion. You're gonna have those moments when it comes to your children's education, when it comes to how you're gonna raise your children, when you're gonna have to come to the middle. Because if you don't do that, I mean, it's going to be a lot of bumps in the road.
I think a lot of the stuff I wanted to ask is that I think it was like the conflict between you guys. I'm going to support both of you guys' side. So
no, you can't. You got to pick one side.
I can. You'll see. So
pick a side.
No. One is that you had your choice. He didn't accept. A few years later, he said yes.
Mm-hmm.
2, you were a few years late. You should have
Yup.
You should have said it at least before. Let's be real. If you could have said it maybe a few weeks after, then it wouldn't happen. But you said it a few years later. This doesn't work like that.
Well, there's more to the story, but I'm not going to get into it.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, it's amazing.
No, it's not. It's
I also it's kind of it's even, because it's your choice if you want to do it, but you're also supporting his choice. Okay. The
issue is we have 2 different religions. That's what it is.
I know that's the thing. It's just that,
guys, this is the thing. Okay, so I was baptized as a baby. I was Catholic. Nobody asked me if I wanted to be baptized.
Nobody asked me. That's my parents did it for Maribel. Preach. Let this man know, please.
When I decided to become a Christian, he never said that I couldn't get baptized again if I wanted to. He never said anywhere that I couldn't get baptized again. It's like I did. So I think I'm I think
she baptized 2 times.
I'm baptized twice, baby. It's like like the enemy or whatever you want to come at me. I've been, baptized twice. I don't see the problem with that. I don't,
I got baptized, and sometimes when I'm in the pool with my son, I baptize myself.
Oh,
again.
yes, absolutely. We can do that too. It's like it doesn't have to be, like I said, it's not, we try not to make things, we come together.
All right.
And he listens to me and I listen to him, and we have to come to a point, because it wouldn't be fair to our kids not to do that. And now it's not longer, this is one thing I had to do. A very independent, a Caribbean woman, Dominicana, Boricua. I don't need a man. That's the way I grew up, to be honest with you.
Right.
I don't need a man. I don't need you or your money to raise my children.
That's it.
That's how I grew up.
That's it.
So,
baloney.
I had to, after I had my children, I said, so now Maribel, it's not longer about you or Jose by himself.
Exactly.
We decided to get in this together. We're in this together. We're going to make decisions together, and we're going to do what's best for our children, and also what's best for us as couple. I cannot put my foot down and say, no, this is not going to happen, or he cannot do that, because it's like we're missing out. We if we do that, if we kind of take that route, we're going to miss out on things, and we can make or have unnecessary conflicts. So,
right.
It's like,
you're saying right, but
I'm agreeing with her.
But she's made a point. They've missed out because of our conflict. Plain and simple.
No, because I've sent them on Tuesdays to the Royal Rangers, and they didn't like it. I felt like that was like a start in the right direction.
But the thing is, you didn't give us a choice.
What do you mean? I sent you guys, and then listen, if you didn't have a choice, you would be still going there every Tuesday until you're 16.
I mean,
you had a choice. You told me you didn't like it. You said you didn't like going
there.
Exactly.
But when you tried it. But we tried it for like a few months.
It was. We tried it for a school semester. That's how I liked it.
For a whole school semester. We sent them every Tuesday, and they came back with like mixed reviews.
Right. But my question was that something that we both agreed to do?
Yes.
Why?
Only because I went through the same thing, because it wasn't just about the church. It was about camping, being in the Boy Scouts, and learning to find your path to God.
So how is that any different from how me wanting to impart education onto them? Because it's not only just about baptism and communion. Mm-hmm. It's about being part of a community, being part of a church. Because for me, I love the feeling of being part of a church. And I know Maribel and I know Chet can feel the same, because there is a sense of community that you get from that. I felt that they lost that, and they didn't have the opportunity to do that, and they only had it through Royal Rangers, and they didn't even like that experience. Knowing what you went through.
Well, I didn't go through that in Royal Rangers, because I stayed there till I was 16.
The Royal Rangers was like the best experience from us going to the church. Mm-hmm. That was like Maribel said, we were talking, it's about the experience. If we were to go back in our youth and think about what was the experience that really helped us when we were younger, for me, Andres, and Rolando, I think we can all say it was that program, because it took us to experience something that we didn't experience before. We went camping, we would see a fireside, pools, have a good time. We would play games and have that community with
competitions,
youth from other states that we will all meet together, and we will have a great time. And, and I think that's in our heart.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. So how old were you guys when you guys started going to church? Even something imposed on you? Well, how old were you? I'm just curious, Andres, how old were you when you started going to church?
We started going, I would say like 5-6 years old. But then I remember during that time, we would just sit there, sleep underneath the, what do you call it? The the benches.
Pulpit or
Yeah, the benches and the carpet,
benches.
run around, and my grandmother would be like, "Siéntate, siéntate, siéntate." You know, like pay attention. And then during the kids section, I remember they used to pull us, go to the kids lessons. They put all the kids to the side, and then we learn about Noah's Ark and all this stuff. And by the time we were 9 years old, that's when we started joining the Royal Rangers, the Boy Scouts.
So, you see my son, he tried that. He didn't really like it. Okay, that wasn't a problem. But that didn't stop him from wanting to go to church. Now, when I became a Christian, which is about to be 8 years, I think he was like, He was like 7 years old. And so, there might be some things that they might not like in there or outside there. Like I say, I'm a Caribbean woman. We think that we are the best at baseball. I'm thinking my son, once I have him, I'm like, I'm going to put a bat on his hand and he's going to be the next, this guy named Papi Ortiz. He's going to be the next big thing. He's going to be a major league baseball player. The kid was never even interested in that.
Yeah, same thing.
But I took him and I was like, let's see what happened here, But then again, it's like I did that early. And like I said, he didn't want to do that. Okay. But at least, we tried. The thing is, like I said, as parents, I guess Steph's point is like, any decision that we make, it's good to sit down together and I give you my point of view, you give me yours, and we got to come to some
kind of
sort
agreement.
We have to.
Don't give her no ideas, Maribel.
I mean, I'm not. I really am not. I'm not. But as a mom, like I understand when she says that she feels that her kids miss out on what she had. So I can relate to that. I can understand that. But then at the same time, I'm gonna tell you something, Steph. You don't feel no remorse and don't feel no regrets. Because that's one thing God told, like he dealt with me in that area. He dealt with me. Regret was like a very big thing in my life. There were so many things that I could have done and I didn't do it. And one day he was just like, it's all right, my daughter. It's okay.
See,
it's all right.
I can't let go.
I understand.
When you say that you had that burden, like I yes. do not let things go, and that has been I don't know if
part of who you are.
Yeah, that is like and my being in my vein.
Yes,
I cannot let things go.
Yeah, yeah, so that's who you are,
and
that's how that's who God created you to be. That's you.
But I don't know if that's something that, by me being passionate about it, is it something that is it a negative thing because I want certain things, like I want certain things to happen, like I don't want to compromise, and I feel like if I compromise, then I'm doing a disservice, and I felt like this conversation between being part of church and trying to do baptism and communion, like I felt like I failed. Because I didn't even have the opportunity to do something, but regret is always living in it. It lives in Stephanie land. Regret lives there.
It's in there.
It lives there. I live there. I still live there, and I do not let things go. And it is a bad trait. I mean, I don't know if that's what it is, but I don't let things go. I don't.
I was, like I said, I was like that, and when I became a Christian and I brought it like to the Lord, me and him, just me and him. Be like, God, going back to the same point, I'm a mother now. I don't, maybe, my mother and my father, they did the best they could with whatever they had, with whatever knowledge they had. And I was like, God, I want to do what's best for my children. I just want you to help me do the best I can. As a mother and then as parents, we always want the best. And so I came to him, and I keep doing it. I keep coming to him with my negatives and my positives and my thoughts and my beliefs and I keep coming back to him, and it's like he has changed so many things in me, within me. And then, like I said, I gotta come to him every single day and bring everything to him and ask him to give me what I need. The Bible says He will give us our daily bread. And I know, Stephanie, you know the Lord's Prayer. We all know it's the same prayer.
We know it by heart.
Same prayer. Give us today our daily bread. And that's what He does. But Steph, I mean, there's nothing you can do about that by this point. Unfortunately, there are no do-overs in life. That's what I tell my son now that he's 14.
Why are you laughing so hard?
Because you give me that look.
You already know why.
I'm sorry, Dre. I'm not like on one side. Like both of you got a valid point. Both of you do. But what I have learned, like I say, 18 years with this man, me being like headstrong, and I'm still are. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, and I think it's never too late. Like,
yeah,
it's just a dedication. You dedicating your children to God. But I feel that, like we were talking about, what's the common ground? Mm-hmm. The common ground will always be peace. When you have a relationship with God, there has to be peace.
There has to be.
That's what He brings to the table.
Yeah.
And then, like, I'm not going to tell you we're perfect. We're not perfect.
By no means. Sometimes I do want to get that skillet, like what a skillet is, and break it on his head. But then I just hear that voice, Maribel, that's not who you are anymore.
Yeah, and it's like I have to, sometimes I'm quiet, but when I talk, I might say something that's real dumb.
Oh, yes.
So it's like, I'm like, I gotta keep quiet and don't say nothing.
The same thing, like I said, marriage is like we cannot be just both of us just bumping head and okay, this is where I stand. And you're not gonna move me from here, and then this is what I'm saying.
But I guess it's the example. Like when she started going for a year, and I saw her with my son and my daughter going to church. It just reminded me of my mother when she took me and my brother, and I was like, I don't want this cycle to repeat itself. My father didn't take us. So I'm like, I'm a father now. Let me go and take my children. It might have been a year for me to go, but I wanted to, be an example to my children. I didn't understand everything. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And that's what I told you that same day I made that prayer. I said, God, if you're real, manifest yourself to me. And that changed everything, that prayer. It's just the same way you would talk to somebody, the same way I talk to my children. The other day I told my children, I know you guys are not praying. And they asked me, how do you know that? Because when I come home, a father's desire is to be with his children.
Yeah.
And you guys are not with me. You're in your rooms, on your phones, on your tablets, playing games. But you don't spend time with me. So if you're not spending time with me, that I'm your father, how can you be spending time in prayer with God? And they just got surprised.
Yeah. But then again, you talk about prayer because it's like you want them to have that relationship. You don't want to be something that's pushed on your children. I don't believe in pushing. Like I said, I thought my son was gonna be the best baseball player ever. It didn't happen that way. And that was, I don't, but as parents as well, we need to understand this. It's like as a father or as a mother, you cannot let your kids do whatever they want, because there's a reason why you're the father and you're the mother. And I tell Bella, my daughter, like, I've been on this earth for almost 40 years. So I know something that you don't, because you're just 11. So it's like, yes, I'm very good friends with my children, but at the same time, I'm the parent. You don't know more than I do, because it's just impossible. Like I said, I've been on this earth for almost 40 years. You haven't. You haven't been through what I have been through. And as a father and as a mother, we want the best for our children. So yes, Absolutely. They do have, I'm not like Bella, now she's like changing into, she wants to wear baggy clothes. And so I'm like, okay, why do you want to do that? And then she explains to me, and her point, I listen to her. And so there's some things that are okay, that I'm like, go ahead, yeah, get it. You like it, get it. But there's some other things that I cannot let her do. It's like right now, I cannot give my child, a car, learning to drive is good at the right time. Right. But if you give Adrian the key, go drive the car, go get in the car and put the key in the ignition and press the gas, what's going to happen? So, it might be something good, but it has to be at the right time.
Well, they made a point that said it's never too late. It is never too late to develop a relationship with God and in spirituality and in faith. It's never too late. But I feel like you have to start somewhere, right? We always want to start with a foundation, right? It's always important. Same thing with school. If in order for you to continue and progress in life and in math and science and stuff, you got to start at the basics. So if I wasn't even able to show you the basics first, how can you go ahead and make your decisions later on in life?
That's right.
Can't.
See, and now you bring up a good point, because now
that's all I do.
They don't even teach religion in school anymore. So you have nowhere to start, even if you wanted to start.
It has to be at home.
It has to be at home.
It has to be at home. It has to be. Just like, look, there's so many subjects right now. Okay, like I said, I was raised by a nurse, somebody that was in the medical field. I have never had problem with getting my kids vaccinated. They might say, some Christians might be like, oh no, I will never. Both of my children had their COVID shot. Why? Because mommy decided that was good for them. They cannot tell me, oh no, I'm not going to do it. Because you're 14 and you're 11 and you don't know any better. But mommy knows what she's doing. Mm-hmm. So I don't have a problem. They have all the vaccinations up to date. Some Christians, they don't believe in that. You can't even go there.
See,
but not everybody is the same. God will deal with you individually.
See, but that's the thing too.
A very important point that I want to make. God will deal with you. And just like anybody else in life, we don't need to be at the same, like let's say, just because somebody bought a house and I don't have a house yet, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean they're ahead of me or that I'm behind or that I have to do what others do. No. We all do go at our own pace. That's also another thing, is we're not all the same. Like, and we go through the same, like, let's say we go through the same church with other brothers and sisters. You cannot tell them to get the vaccine. But for me, I need to do it. I'm 100% for it.
How do you, like, when it comes to that, like, how do you feel about the religious exemptions? Because a lot of like you've mentioned before, a lot of church members feel like when it comes to religious exemptions on certain vaccines, whether if it's the COVID or any other, how do you feel about that? Because me personally, I really don't believe in the religious exemptions, because there's so many things that can go wrong in the medically. I think about it medically, in the medical field, there's so many different infections and bacteria and all these things. And I think of it in that sense. Like, what is your understanding or your opinion about religious exemptions in general?
There's a scripture in the Bible that it says that my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And I think some people, they don't use wisdom, because you can't dismiss the fact that something like that pandemic is deadly.
Yeah.
and then you think that you're just superior in a sense. We're called to pray against it, but at the same time, you have to have wisdom and protect yourself. It's like driving a car and putting a seatbelt. I'm not gonna drive my car without my seatbelt, But
and right now, like here in Virginia, we have a governor. He's a Christian. He said that okay, moms and dads, do you want your children to wear a mask to school, or you don't? Now that's up to you. So it's like same thing. Like I don't believe nothing should be forced on nobody.
One thing is like there's a natural aspect to something, but there's always a spiritual aspect.
Yeah, that's good.
When my wife had the accident, we had 4 accidents in 1 week. And when that happened, the 3rd accident, I told her, and I told my wife, we need to pray because there's something that's not lining up.
Yeah.
And then on Saturday, the car hit her and flipped the car over. So it's like, we needed to be in a church for a protection. We needed a higher protection for our family because we were going through all these.
Okay. I just want to make this clear. Now, this is something that they don't do just because there's a Christian church, that doesn't mean everything is the same. I don't even know how many Christian denominations they are, to be honest with you. Now, where we go, or where we feel comfortable, because that's another thing. It's kind of like going through life. It's kind of like having a job. You might be at a place and you're going to outgrow that place. And then you'll be like, I don't think I can be here anymore. And then you will go and apply to another job and go somewhere else. It's kind of like the same thing, It's like where we are, our pastors, he did that. Like he prayed, to be kind of like that point, that barrier in the spiritual realm.
Spiritual protection.
To be a spiritual protection.
The things that we were dealing with were greater than us.
Yeah.
We didn't know why we're going through this stuff. I was going through court cases, federal court cases, lawyers, stolen cars, car accidents.
Yeah, and some people might call that bad luck or karma or whatever you want to call it, but we saw a difference once we came in there.
So it's like the same thing. If you watch a movie, you're going to watch the movie that you like. Exactly. You're not going to watch a movie that you don't like. When you eat food, you're going to eat the food that you like. So it's like you have a choice, you're going to go to where you feel comfortable, where you feel it's your home. Mm-hmm. And I think for many Christians, they lose their choice. They don't decide to keep growing or to keep advancing, to go somewhere else. They're like, oh no, this is where I belong. I'm like, God is always moving. He's always when he created the world, he said he's moving through he created the heavens and the earth. His spirit was moving. God's always moving. So it's like there has to be an action to your life. You can't stay the same.
And then again, look, like Andres, your family, they're Christians. They have a denomination. I am not of the same denomination. Mm-hmm. So there might be things that I do that might not agree with. And there might be things that they do that I might not. And then again, agree to disagree. Just,
But then again, it's like that, like the gift. Like it's a free gift. Salvation is a free gift. We don't have to work for it. There's nothing we can do to receive it or get it. Yeah. He already did it. And it's like I recognize my wife has a special gift. And Andres, just by talking to Andres, he has that special gift as well. Yes. So it's like that.
And Stephanie does too.
Yeah, she does too. And there's a scripture that says that your gift will make room for you. So it's like when you tap into that gift and you know that it's something that God gave you, you can be like, God, lead me where you need me to be. Show me where I need to go. Or Lord, speak to me tonight when I sleep. Give me a dream, and he will do it because you already have the gift inside of you. You know, so I think we all constantly are looking for something outside when it's already
everything
inside.
Is inside.
See what they said stuff? I'm God's gift to women. Is that?
See, that's how fights start. My thing is, I always try to be open. That's the only thing that I can impart to my children. It's the only thing that I can impart as a parent, as a mom, as trying to be something that's going to help myself and help others along the way. Because that's if that's the gift that I want to impart, that's by me doing the things that I enjoy, right? I love being around children. I love working in the hospital. I love working with my hands. I love being in the medical field. And that has allowed me to put my faith in other things, and faith in terms of my skills, in terms of my understanding, my empathy. And I'm always constantly practicing that. Like I'm constantly
you can
learning.
have faith in everything. You have faith in science. You have faith in, religion and a higher being. It's everything. It's faith.
Right. And it's a combination.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is that I sometimes lose myself because I'm so focused on the end goal. And I sometimes fail to realize that there is something much more to this goal that I'm trying to achieve. And I feel sometimes I lose sight of that because I'm so occupied about this is what I need to do in order to get to my goal. And this is what I have to do. And I lose sight and I don't enjoy the moments of the journey itself.
Right.
And I feel like that's something through religion and through being a parent and just straight up life. Like sometimes I feel like I lose myself because I'm too busy looking at the end of the road. And
so you need to step back.
I need to step back and enjoy it a little bit. And I don't think that I don't think I do that enough. I know I don't do that enough. I know I don't.
Be present. That was something God had to deal with me because I was always either on the past or future tense. I couldn't be in today. I couldn't be in the moment. I couldn't be present. And this is something He has changed in me because I recognize that I'm not the same. If you allow it, just if you allow it, he will do. Like right now, you say you just recognize that by having this conversation, you're like, okay, I realize that I need to be more present. I need to enjoy more because it's a journey. And the ultimate goal is to get where you want to go. But in the meantime, you have to enjoy the journey and you learn and you become better. And lessons is lessons that you learn. I mean, you're not the same one you were when you were 10 years old. Like how you were explaining, Adrian, it's like that's how you go to school. And you do get influenced by outside sources, and we have all this information and all these things that we've been bombarded by. And, that's what I said. It's like you have that free will to make your choices and make your own decisions, and that's okay.
Good stuff, guys. Good stuff.
I don't know. I want you guys to ask us questions because I don't really want to be doing talking I want to know what you're curious about or even Adrian.
I want to share something about Joshua. When he was 12 years old, he had something similar to what Andres was saying, a vision. And he told me, he's like, Dad, I'm having a vision right now. And I'm seeing you in New York with a couple of kids with a hoodie, with a backpack, with spray cans. And I'm like, where, really? Yeah, I see you. And the guy is showing me all of this.
And he didn't know about
and my son did not know I did graffiti. Mm-hmm. He didn't know I was in the streets, and I asked him, I'm like, son, what do you see? And he was sharing everything. I see you drawing in the walls. And then I asked him, why you think God showed you that? He's like, because God is telling me that that you were looking to acceptance. You needed to fit in, and you were dealing with these people and doing this and doing that. And I think, like my wife said, we all have a calling, we all have a purpose, we all have a gift. And in each and every one of us, that gift is to help others, to help each other first, family, foundation, and then to help others. Legacy. So I always encourage my wife, and I tell her, you have a special gift, use it. Yeah. You know, because I'm out there, you know, nobody have to push me to do something. I do it. But I encourage her to use her gift. And even my son, like sometimes I'm in his room and he's there. I'm like laying in his bed and he's playing the guitar. Then he's playing the piano. Then he's doing sit-ups and push-ups. And I'm like
multitasker.
He's showing me all his muscles. I'm like, bro, I don't even got muscles. You know, I tried to get a six-pack since I was 14. I'm 40 now. You know, and I see the gift in him, and I'm like, wow, you know, it encourages me to see what God is doing in him, you know, and we feed off each other. I don't know if Steph ever met grandma, but did you, Steph?
No, I've never met her.
No, she never met her.
Okay. Our grandmother, to me, was the greatest expression of love.
Mm-hmm.
Our grandmother always had food on the table, always hugged us, always loved us. And, you know, it's like, it never in my life have I seen a woman like my grandma, you know, but I could tell you one thing, that love has transpired into Andres' mom.
It leaves a mark in you.
You know,
it does.
And it's just
because I was about to say, God is a generational God. He not only see you guys like right now. Is like I said, once you came together, it's like God sees Steph, sees Andres, he see Adrian, and he sees Stefan. It's like he's a God of generation, a generational God. So it's like that's why that family is very important to him. It's like it's something that and love, like he said. So he's talking about his grandmother. Then you know there is this like he said, and he's talking about his aunt. He's talking all those things are important, but like in my case, I couldn't really see that until I became a Christian. Then I started to understand things a little bit better. I was like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, so this is important. Like I say, I started putting pictures of my family together because every time I'll get mad, my reaction was like, I want to leave this man because I don't have to put up with this. Why? Because that was what was embedded in me. That's the way I was raised. So I don't have to put up with this. I can leave him and leave that. But no, it's like I said.
Why are you giving me a look for? Why are you giving me a look?
You heard what she said, right? You gotta put up with me. That's what she said.
No, but I'm saying that's the way I used to think. And then God showed me it's not about just you and Jose. It's a legacy. It's generations. We're looking forward to our grandkids. If God willing, I don't know if we're going to see our great grandkids. But it's like that's the thing, that God is a God it's a generational God.
Yeah, it's a legacy we leave behind.
I would be thinking like, I don't know, do whatever I want or do this or that. It's like, this is something that he like dealt with me personally. He's a God of generations. He works that way, and
I think you gotta come to the point of don't shy away from reality. Like if I were to ask you, like, what do you think God is saying? Like, what does God want people to know about him, about who he is? we already said love and relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But if like I can give you an example, when she went to church, we were in a church and we were worshiping, and I was there and I looked,
praising, singing, whatever,
during worship service, and I looked and my wife wasn't there, and I'm like, what happened? Where'd she go? You know, and then when she came back, her face was wet. I guess she was real scared or whatever, but she felt God's voice tell her, I am not a myth. I am not a fable. I am not a story. I am God, and I love you. So it's like for her, she needed to
why do you have to go
she
there?
had to hear that audible voice and that encounter.
From a father, because I come from a broken family.
Because she had a lot of beliefs in her mindset of who God was.
Yeah.
And he needed to get that away off her mind, so she can know that that's not the God that she thought that she was, you know? And that's how her relationship started. So it's like we can all start in different places, but he reveals himself to us individually in different ways.
Yeah. Adrian, do you have any questions?
You got any questions, Adrian?
Are you curious about something? Do you want to ask something? I want to know, what do you think about all this?
I feel like all the questions were answered.
Okay.
I really don't have any questions. I'm not saying I don't have any questions and a bad thing, but I feel like
No.
all the questions
you're
I had
100%
were
right. You're very smart.
Answered
very
already.
Right. For your age, you know how to express yourself very, very, very well. And I do believe that is a gift. That is not just pure mere coincidence, you know?
He has a gift of talking, so he's like us.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, Andres.
You
don't have
the gift. People,
you don't have the gift of the gab. No, you don't.
What?
No.
I am a social butterfly.
And we know there's certain things or conversations that can be very, very controversial. And like I said, we might never look eye to eye. You might believe one thing. I might believe in another one. And to me, like I said, that's okay. To me, it's Jesus. He's the only way. And you cannot tell me otherwise. There might be some people that might think something else. But like I said, I always say, if you give this Jesus, my Jesus, the one I know, if you give him a try, and if it doesn't work for you, then it's okay. But I assure you that if you give him a try, you might be surprised. He's going to surprise you.
And it's like, imagine if he were to step in a church right now, the way he is, you think people will be like, what is he doing? Because he'll get mud and put it in a person's eyes and heal them with mud, or he'll spit on a guy's face. People won't do that in the church. They'll go on TikTok and be like, oh man, Jesus is crazy. But he's out. He's like that. He's more cool than
Yes.
I had to accept him, because at the beginning I was like, oh, tidy. I'm not gonna talk to this person, and God had to tell me, like, Jose, I created you that way so you can be an influence to people in the marketplace. Stop trying to shy away, hide, close your mouth, open your mouth, talk to people, love people. And sometimes I'll see people, I'll give them a gift and they're like, don't ever change who you are.
You hear so many things in the news, and recently something happened that it shook me. A young woman that lost her lives, and she was very well known. We all know. I'm not going to say names or anything like that, but it shook me because, like, for example, when you take your life away, it's because you feel that you got to the end of the road. You feel that there's no hope for you. There's nothing else left.
A lot of that has to do with mental health.
This doesn't happen just to people that are single. It can happen to someone who's married.
Life, yeah.
It can happen to a mother. It can happen to a father. So what the gospel does. And that's what it has done for me. It has given me hope. And when you have hope, I'm telling you, it's like, you might have your days. I'm not going to lie to you. I have my days when I'm on the floor.
I'm tested.
When I need somebody else to come and lift me up because I don't have the faith on that day, or I don't have the hope. But every time I go to that church building or get around my brothers and sisters, that's how we call it, or my husband, I come to him, or he prays for me, or he gives me hope. And that is something that's priceless.
Listen, I want to thank you guys for being on the show, man. This is very insightful, very helpful. And I guess we could have you guys on another episode, just not even talking about religion, just talk about life in general.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. Like my husband said, it has been amazing.
Yeah, it's been a good over 2 hours.
Thank you so much.
It didn't even feel that long.
No,
either.
it didn't even feel like that.
And that's the thing, when God cursed the earth due to sin, he cursed it with time. When we spend time in worship and our relationship with God, we're no longer in time. We're in eternity. That's why he said you can't feel it, because it's like you're in a different place now, And then when we finish the podcast, we'll come back to time and we're like, oh, wait, it's 10 o'clock.
Bedtime.
We didn't even realize it.
Yeah. Guys, it is an honor and a privilege.
Yes, thank you for giving us this time.
I appreciate it. And I just pray God blesses you, your family,
thank you.
The podcast. And I just pray you keep bringing out new content. And God gives you the wisdom, the understanding for what content to put out, the people, and just success in every area of life.
Yeah, just like I said, I don't want to start this all over again, but because I know you guys have to go. But like right now, or like what's going on, with the pandemic, people have their schedules change. Our way of life, as we know it, has changed.
Absolutely.
So you have to be more inside, maybe spend more time with each other, or maybe doing things that you didn't do before. And it has affected people like mentally, like I was talking about mental health. And that was one thing for me, like having that, because Andres said that before, you don't have to go to a building, or you don't have to, to be spiritual, to believe in God. That is true. But then again, speaking by my own experience, I thank God they didn't close that church during the pandemic, because it really helped my mental state. My to listen to something when there is we are living in a world that is so negative. There's so much bad out there.
Yep,
so
much
when
negativity.
you hear something that's positive, that gives you hope, that encourages you, what can be so wrong about that?
Anything you guys want. You guys are more than welcome to come back in another episode. You guys have been amazing. Thank you so much. We love you guys.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more that I can say. I really appreciate you guys being on, and I'm so grateful that you guys were able to, use this platform and give us the opportunity to even talk to you guys. So I'm super, super grateful.
Yep. And I'm going to end it with God bless you guys.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
Have
Take
a good
care.
night, guys.